it's John McCabe. Welcome to the show. Hey, welcome to the Johnny McCabe Show, where it's all about accelerating your authority in your business or field of expertise. And we do that by helping entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed on any device, anywhere, anytime, in as little as 15 hours, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, on today's show, The Entrepreneur's Journey, my guest is Alan Brown, founder of Crusher TV. Now, Alan has a very inspiring story, one filled with personal challenges where he was at the very rock bottom but managed to find his way back to the light. Now, early in Alan's career, and unbeknownst to him at the time, he suffered from ADD or ADHD, which caused him to be a very average or lower than average employee in the ad world of New York. Alan was only making a salary of mid-five figures in New York in the mid-90s, a salary that really wasn't going very far, and one that in one of the most expensive cities in the world. Now, not knowing he suffered from ADD or ADHD, Alan turned to cocaine to try to clear his mind and be able to focus more at his job. Now, during this time, Alan's mother was in the hospital suffering from cancer. And Alan tells the story of being with his mother and telling her that he can't stay to be with her as he has somewhere to go. Now, that somewhere was Harlem to score his next drug fix. Now, one day it got so bad that Alan went to his apartment and wrapped an extension cord around his neck and tried to commit suicide. Now, fortunately for Alan and for everyone else, he was not very successful. But it was right then, at that moment, that Alan decided he needed to get control of his brain, get off the drugs, and take back his life. Now, one of Alan's friends gave him a book by Deepak Chopra that talked about calming and slowing down the mind and gave some techniques on how to make that happen. After working on those techniques, Alan noticed a vast improvement and decided to take further action and find other things that he could do to improve his focus. After officially being diagnosed with ADD and ADHD, getting some treatment and incorporating what Alan likes to call brain hacks, his career skyrocketed. In just over 2 years, he went from a mid-level account rep to executive vice president of the agency, and his salary skyrocketed right along with his title. Now, in 2001, just after the dot-com bust, Alan and two of his friends started a new venture. With only an idea, no product, no service, they managed to build GoalQuest up to a point where it was actually purchased in a private deal in 2007 for just over 8 figures. Now, in 2010, Alan went on to found the ADD Crusher Facebook page, which quickly grew and now has a following of just over 33,000 fans, the largest such community in the world. In early 2012, he launched ADDcrusher.com, and with it, 2 game-changing instructional videos and other tools that have won acclaim from industry pros and are endorsed by the ADHD coaches around the world. In his role as president of the company and creator of the videos, he shares coping strategies as both a coach and an internationally recognized speaker. He is also involved in efforts to increase awareness of among the 85% of ADHD adults who remain undiagnosed, like he was prior to his own diagnosis, at very grave risk of substance abuse, self-abuse behaviors, incarceration, and even worse. Now, in 2015, Alan decided to target a new segment to focus on and people like busy entrepreneurs who could also benefit from things he was coaching and teaching other people. So he conceived, created, and began hosting a weekly online TV show that teaches productivity brain hacks to anyone seeking to get more stuff done with less effort and less stress. Now, Crusher TV is a must-watch for any busy professional, entrepreneur, or student. Last year, Alan and I spent some time together participating in a full-day live cast event with our coach, Mike Koenigs. It was really the first time I heard Alan's story and knew it was one that was worth sharing. So be sure to stick around, because when I come back, we're going to be joined on the entrepreneur's journey with my friend and colleague, Alan Brown. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Today it's the Entrepreneur's Journey, where we hear from an entrepreneur about their journey into entrepreneurship. Sometimes the journeys are like roller coasters filled with ups and downs, twists and turns, and even sometimes they get derailed from time to time. Other times it seems like they start, it's a straight shot from rock bottom to success. Regardless of what the journey looks like on a graph, it's really the challenges, the perseverance, the consistent persistence that really makes entrepreneurs successful. Now, in today's show, we're going to hear from our guest, how our guest overcame some personal vices, hit rock bottom, and decided he was going to take control of his brain and his life. Thankfully, a friend gave Alan a book that was very timely and informative, one that helped him learn how to slow down his brain and to focus. From then on, Alan has spent countless hours researching how he could get more stuff done in less time with less stress. Now he teaches the exact same thing to busy and successful entrepreneurs. As a productivity coach and host of Crusher TV, Alan Brown teaches productivity brain hacks to his audience of crazy busy professionals and entrepreneurs. An adult with ADHD who was undiagnosed for decades, his untreated learning disability manifested in underachievement, substance abuse, and even worse. After hitting rock bottom, he began developing developing some brain hacks strategies that helped him build a successful advertising career and several startups, one of which was sold for 8 figures. He's a featured speaker in the US and Europe, including TEDx talks, and he uses his weekly online TV show, crushertv.com, to help busy and overwhelmed people unleash the power of their brains. So please give it up with likes, love, shares, and a virtual flurry of thumbs up and heart icons across the screen for my guest today, Mr. Alan Brown. How you doing, Alan?
I'm doing great, and I'm doing all the greater being here with you, John. Great to see you.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us. So Crusher TV is going well for you?
It is. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of work, but very rewarding. We're teaching a lot of people how to get more stuff done with less drama and do it in less time. So if I had the perfect job, I think that would be it.
Excellent. I know that when we were together, I think it was last year, we were on Mike Koenig's show on that full day live cast. Crusher TV was just getting started, I think, back then. Yeah. You're just launching it, so it's from then to now, it's become very successful, has it?
Yes, absolutely. We've got a great membership, and we're getting great guests on the show. I just actually interviewed one of the top mindfulness experts from UCLA, and we're having fun with it, and we're getting a lot of attention, and I'm totally psyched.
Good stuff. So, Alan, I know you watched the show before, and you know that the first thing we like to do before we get too far into the interview is a speed round of questions. Don't worry, it's nothing that you needed to study for. There's no test at the end. We're just going to go through 10 questions, so just so the viewers get to know you a little bit better. Just give the first answer that comes to your mind in a couple words or a sentence. And as always, I'd like everybody to play along at home. Please answer along with Alan as I ask the question by entering your answers to the questions in the comment field for each answer. So you all set, Alan?
I'm ready to go.
All right, so name the book that impacted your life the most.
Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
When you were a young boy, who was your celebrity crush?
Pat Benatar.
That was the first time for her on this show. What is a book, a podcast, or a show that you're into right now?
The Productivityist podcast.
So are you currently working with any coaches?
No, I am a coach.
Do you have any coaches yourself?
Nope, not at the moment.
Not at the moment. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Casablanca.
And are you currently involved in any masterminds?
No, I'm not, and I should be.
Okay. Name a person, either dead or alive, who you'd most like to meet and have dinner with.
The J-Man.
So what's your favorite type of vacation? Would it be between the two, beach or adventure tour?
Adventure tour with good food.
Excellent. So what's the best business advice you ever received?
Take a risk. Go for it.
And the last question, it's a two-parter. What do you enjoy most? Not what do you consume all the time, but what do you enjoy most? Water, beer, wine, or pizza, wings, and salad?
It's definitely wine.
Okay.
And do I have to put a food on there too?
Pizza, wings, or salad? Which one is your favorite out of those three?
I'll go pizza.
Excellent. So wine and pizza it is for Alan Brown today. Everyone give Alan some love by hitting that like button, love button, and be sure to share this feed on your Facebook feed and any business pages or groups that you belong to that you may think it's relevant information. We're just going to do a quick peek to see if anyone played along or just see who's joining us today. I see that Carla Walsh has joined us. Welcome to the show, Carla. And a good friend, Andy Lockwood, is in the house. And Andy made a comment, hi guys, I too struggle with my own addiction, and his addiction is my show. The John A. McCabe Show. So thanks for your comment, Andy.
He does have a problem, doesn't he?
Yeah. As always, you make me smile, if nothing else. But if you have any questions during the show, just type them in the chat. And what we'll do is I'll ask Alan the questions that you're feeding in the chat. If we can't get to them throughout the show, then Alan and I will definitely follow up after the show has already been aired. Or if you're watching this in a replay, we'll get to the questions. Just tag one of us in the Facebook comments with your question, and we'll get back to it. So if you're just joining me, I'm speaking with Alan Brown. He's a productivity coach and host of Crusher TV. He teaches productivity brain hacks to his audience of crazy busy professionals and entrepreneurs. An adult with ADHD who is undiagnosed for decades. His untreated learning disability manifested in underachievement, substance abuse, and even worse. After hitting rock bottom, he began developing and curating brain hack strategies that helped him build a successful advertising career and several startups, one of which was sold for 8 figures. Now he's a featured speaker in the US and Europe, including a TEDx talk, and he uses his weekly online TV show, crushertv.com, to help busy and overwhelmed people unleash the power of their brains. So Alan, let's go back to a little bit ago in your life when you really hit rock bottom. So can you share with us what happened and what it was that caused you to make the decision to actually take control of your life?
Sure, John. Again, thanks for having me on. It's a delight to be here. No I'm somebody who I help people take control of their brain to make it do more with less effort and in less time. And there was a period 20-some years ago where my brain was completely out of control. And it really kind of culminated in one day, 89 or 90, I was visiting my mother at Mount Sinai Hospital in Upper Manhattan. She was in her last battle with ovarian cancer, and I stopped in to visit her, as I often did. And as was often the case when I visited her, I couldn't stay long. I was getting antsy, and after about 10 minutes, here's my mom. She's got tubes everywhere, no hair, 82 pounds, and I said, "Mom, I'm so sorry. I can't stay. I need to be somewhere." And she always say, "That's okay. Do what you need to do." Mm-hmm. And what I needed to do was get up to Harlem to get my drugs. I was a drug addict, and if I would go up to Harlem, I would. This is the height of the crack epidemic, by the way. I don't know what was different about this particular day, but I got home to my apartment in Jersey City. And the absurdity of all of it just kind of came crashing down on me, and I realized what I'd been doing and how out of control I was, and I made a failed attempt at suicide with an extension cord and a chair. That luckily that didn't work out. But that was the day that I decided that I can have control of this thing, and I'm going to learn how to get it. And I was able to get cleaned up enough off the drugs to get a job in the advertising business and start to my process of getting to where I am now.
Excellent. So when you think back when you actually cleaned up a little bit and you got your job in the advertising, what was it like trying to do your job? What were some of the signs of what you were doing that you can now recognize as ADD or ADHD behavior? And those challenges that came along with it. So looking back to that time when you were actually doing the job undiagnosed, what are some of the clear-cut signs that you see now, knowing what you know, were clear signs that you had ADD?
Yeah, and I'm so glad you asked the question this way because you mentioned my TEDx talk. I did a TEDx talk about the 85%. These are the 85% of adults with ADHD who don't know they have it. This is a serious condition. It can result in utter time mismanagement, poor personal organization, inability to remember short-term things, inability to focus, inability to start and finish major projects. So you can imagine being an advertising executive and trying to get all this stuff done, and it's just not happening. So again, there are 9 million adults in the U.S. alone who have ADHD. 85% of them don't know it. Same proportion in Canada, same proportion in New Zealand or anywhere else. And so this is what was happening to me. Earlier on in my life, in my 20s, I was self-medicating, it turns out, with the drugs and with alcohol, and I was also engaged in some very high-intensity, high-risk behaviors, which is also characteristic of ADDers who are undiagnosed, and I was engaged in some crime. But I was the funny thing is that ironic thing is that I was actually busting my ass because by the time I got cleaned up from the drugs, I was already almost 30 years old. And here I am now in an entry-level job in the advertising business, so I'm trying to make up ground, right? And I'm thinking, well, I'm a little bit more streetwise than these other younger kids, and I should be able to kind of make up ground and move twice as quickly up the ladder. Well, it wasn't happening. For 5 or 6 years, I'm busting my ass. I'm working evenings and I'm working weekends, and I'm not getting the promotions. I'm not getting the raises. So this was a real very, very unfortunate, but very real manifestation of that ADHD, which I didn't know I had at the time.
Yeah. So looking back, what were some clear signs, knowing what you know now, what were things that you were attributing, or what could you see that were clear pictures of that you had ADD, knowing what you know now? So looking back at your old self, it's like, oh, I did that, or I couldn't do that. And that.
Well, First was definitely the drug use, and the fact that it took me 10 years to get a 4-year degree. But specific to the workplace, it was things like I just couldn't get as organized as the other executives. So I was an executive, and you have this multitasking, a lot of different things going on any given different day, and the people around me seemed to be able to do their stuff and shut off their light and go out the door at 5:30. I'm there until 8, 9 o'clock, and I still can't get my stuff done. Another thing is that I would sit down at my desk in the morning, all fresh and ready to go, and within 45 minutes, my brain just didn't have any gas left. And then another was that I just didn't really have a good sense of time. So when you are in the middle of $1 million TV production, you need to understand that this needs to get done here, and then this needs to get done here, and this needs to get done here. And if you don't have these things done by then, you are screwed, and so is your $1 million production. Well, if you don't have a good sense of looking out into the time horizon, being able to plan and have that time management, you're screwed. And I was indeed screwed. I was doing a lousy job, and it's one of the reasons I was not getting promoted.
Yeah, and those are some of the clear-cut signs that somebody that is undiagnosed, if they're having the same issues, that maybe they should look into something that's getting diagnosed or going through a program that is going to help them focus a little bit better.
Absolutely.
If you guys are just joining us, I'm speaking with Alan Brown. He's a productivity coach and host of Crusher TV. He teaches productivity brain hacks to his audience of crazy busy professionals and entrepreneurs. An adult with ADHD who is undiagnosed for decades, his untreatment learning disability manifested in underachievement, substance abuse, and even worse. After hitting rock bottom, he began developing and creating brain hack strategies that helped him build a successful advertising career and several startups, one of which was sold for 8 figures. Now he's a featured speaker in the U.S. and Europe, including TEDx Talk, and he uses his weekly online TV show at crushertv.com to help busy and overwhelmed people unleash the power of their brains. So if you haven't done so already, please like and love this video, share it on your Facebook feed with all your friends. And if you have any questions for either Alan or myself, just type them in the chat. Any questions that you want me to ask Alan, just type them in the chat, and I'll do my best to get them answered throughout the show. If I'm unable to answer them during the show, Alan and I will both answer them once the show has been completed. Just make sure you tag one of us in the question. If you're watching this on the replay, just tag one of us in the question. We'll get back to you and answer it for you. So I see that Jenny Friedman has joined us, and she liked my last question. Welcome, Jenny, to the show. And Alan, so how long after you made the decision to take control of your brain, so when you hit rock bottom, you made that decision, how long was it from that point to when your friend actually gave you that Deepak Chopra book and you started to implement some of the things in that book? And then how did that book really change your life?
Yeah, it was a long haul. So I was about 30 years old when I got that entry level job, and the one where I thought if I just really worked extra hard, I could actually catch up with everybody and be a normal 35-year-old executive at the level that I should be at. Well, again, it wasn't happening, and it wasn't until I was 36, actually 37, where I was still kind of a low-level executive making mid-five figures. And again, it wasn't that I was lazy. I was working hard. I was working evenings. People loved me. They just didn't really trust me with big projects, and they wouldn't assign people to be under me. But around this time, when I was 36, 37, somebody gave me a gift of the audiobook. They knew I'm a terrible reader, and they gave me an audiobook of Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Secrets of Success. And there's some, you could say, woo-woo in this book, bestseller, but there are also some very practical things. And one of the things that it taught was kind of how to just quiet your mind. So that's where it was really the beginning of my changing from this kind of trajectory to a little bit more of that.
And that was the beginning of sort of what, the rest of your life till now, you getting involved in learning some of these brain hacks, figuring out what you can do on your own to actually be able to focus better, to be able to have, be able to, I don't want to say think like everybody else, but have that clear picture and that clear focus so that you can get more things done in less time and being very productive. Yeah,
and John, sort of more to that specific question of how did that book change my life?
Yeah,
it made me realize, first of all, that 90% of the noise that's going on in our brains is a bunch of BS. It's mostly worries about the past, worries and anxieties about the future, and a lot of petty judgments of this thing and that thing. And if you actually quiet your mind down and listen to it a little bit, you will see that is what's going on there. And none of it is helpful. And the more aware of it you are, the more you can quiet it down, and the more you can actually program in what it is you're going to be thinking about and where you're going to direct your attention. So with that, just that idea, the power of that idea that I can actually, decide what's going to go on in here instead of me just running around on autopilot chasing, oh my God, this, oh my God, that, no, I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that, oh gee, I hope I don't look stupid on this date, blah, 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 blah. That's a big thing for an ADDer whose mind is always just going all over the place like a big bunch of scrambled eggs. So that was definitely why that book was life-changing for me.
So you talked about calming your mind down as one of the strategies in the book. How hard was it to actually implement that specific strategy? I know I tried quasi meditation where you're just sitting in quiet, and I have a very hard time shutting my mind down and actually not thinking. I don't know if people can actually not think, but how hard was it for you to actually implement some of those strategies?
Well, that's the thing is that Deepak Chopra talks about meditation, what he calls going into the gap for periods of 20 minutes and 2 hours. I've never been able to do any of that. But what you are able to do is if you can just sit in a chair, put your hands gently on your lap and close your eyes. We have a mutual friend, Ed Rush, who uses this technique quite often. Excuse me. If you just observe your thoughts, and when one comes into your mind, just gently toss it out. Another one will come in a second. Don't worry, it'll come in. You just knock that one out too. And you just do this over a period of a few minutes. What you've at least done is just quieted your mind to give it a little bit of a rest, because when it's constantly going and going and going, it's exhausting. But when you just kind of slow it down and slow all these thoughts that are going through there and be more observant of it, it is a form of meditation. And nobody out there, in order to get the benefits, some benefits of meditation, needs to be sitting on a bed of nails. I just interviewed, as I mentioned, this expert on mindfulness from UCLA, and she talks about what she calls short, brief check-ins. Those are forms of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And I use them all day long. I use them whenever I'm exhausted, whenever I need a little bit of break, whenever I find myself churning and ruminating on something. I just go into one of these things where I go, okay, everybody quiet down, and I quiet it down, and I get back to work.
Was there any other strategies out of that audio book that you took away that you implemented, or that was the main one or the only one?
That was for sure the main one. But he also has a couple of let's just call them a little bit more abstract ones. One is the law of giving, and there's a lot of research that shows that gratitude has tremendous benefits for your cognition, for your mood, for your the health of your mind and your body.
Right.
And the law of giving simply states that whenever you meet someone, whatever you see with them, you give them a gift, and whether that is a flower or a card or just a silent prayer, it is a beautiful thing. So I thought that was a powerful lesson too. And then the other one that it might be worth mentioning is I think it's the law of detachment, where for instance, we just witnessed an election,
right?
That was very polarizing, etc. And people were very attached to the outcome, and all of that attachment to an outcome. Let's just flip this into an entrepreneurial thing. You're launching a new business and you are sweating it out, and you're worried about either getting a round of funding, or you're worried about whether your new product is going to sell or whatever. Obviously, you want to work hard as you can, do all the right things. But once you have set everything that you can into motion on it, you're better to just detach yourself from the outcome. Because when you grind and churn on the potential, well, is it going to succeed or is it going to fail? Is it going to succeed? Oh, I'm worried.
Yeah.
You are, and I don't necessarily believe that there is a psychic channel that's sending signals out there, to say, fail.
Yeah.
But really, when you are so attached to outcomes, you are expending energy that could be better spent improving the likelihood of that outcome. So I think that's another powerful thing, Deepak Chopra, that I learned from that book.
Excellent. And if you guys are just joining us, I'm speaking with Alan Brown. He's a productivity coach, host of Crusher TV. He teaches productivity brain hacks to his audience of crazy busy professionals and entrepreneurs. An adult with ADHD who was undiagnosed for years. His untreated learning disability manifested in underachievement, substance abuse, and even worse. After hitting rock bottom, he began developing and curating brain hack strategies that helped him build a successful advertising career in several startups, one of which was sold for 8 figures. He's a featured speaker in the US and Europe, including a TEDx talk, and he uses his weekly online TV show, crushertv.com, to help busy and overwhelmed people unleash the power of their brains. So make sure that you love, share this video with everyone on your Facebook feed. And if you have any questions you want me to ask Alan, just type them in the chat, and I'll do my best to get to them throughout the show. And if you are watching the replay, just tag either Alan or myself on the question, and we'll be sure to follow up with you after the fact. So Alan, once you had control of your brain, once you started introducing these strategies, and you could focus a little bit better, it seemed that from what I've read and what you told me, your career seemed to skyrocket. So can you share with us some of the very specific things that you were doing that helped you focus, and how those strategies helped in your day-to-day business? Like, what were you doing different that enabled you to go from where you were to executive VP in just over 2 years?
Yeah, and just to round that out, I mean, it's a pretty remarkable turnaround. Again, here I am, I'm 36, 37 years old. I'm at a kind of a lower level executive. The title was account executive, that's what 22, 23-year-olds have when they're in the advertising business, and I'm making mid 5 figures living in New York City, which ain't going to cut it. So I started using the quieting of the mind. I call it shut up your mind. Mm-hmm. I grew up with a lot of Italian guys. But I was using that, and I also used some Stephen Covey, some basic proactivity, taking responsibility for things rather than constantly, it's your fault, it's their fault, it's everyone's fault. This is a very powerful brain hack itself. As you know, John, I mean, we all in our community, we know how powerful these Covey principles are. But within just a couple of years, I am gone from this account executive to vice president, managing director of the biggest office, of the biggest ad agency in the nation, and also I was voted Employee of the Year, which is pretty odd since 3 years before that nobody would have asked me into a meeting, pretty much. But what's also interesting, I can tell you, is that during that year in which I was named Employee of the Year, I co-founded this startup, and I was moonlighting. I was working in my spare time on this first startup. Yeah. So it was really an impressive turnaround. So let me give you just a few more of the things that I did, just a few of the things that I was doing, okay, that helped me make that huge shift in my trajectory. One is that you got to feed your brain, and I, like a lot of New Yorkers and advertising people at the time, when you were heading into the office, you'd get off the subway and you'd stop at the coffee kiosk, which is these little trailers out on the sidewalks, and you grab your coffee, and you have a bagel with a schmear or a bagel with butter, and you go sit at your desk, you read the New York Times and the advertising magazine or whatever, and you'd eat your bagel, even with a little cream cheese on it, which has some protein. This is not sustaining your mental stamina at all. It's terrible food for your brain.
Yeah, it's really just that carbohydrates just spikes your insulin, gives you that sugar rush, and then your body's going to crash very shortly thereafter.
Exactly. And as soon as I learned about the power of protein, I started instead stopping at McDonald's for a what was it, sausage McMuffin and cheese or whatever, yeah, which is not healthy. I don't do that anymore. But the difference that alone made, and also taking sugar out of my coffee, that alone allowed me to work until 11:30 a.m. without a crash, whereas I was crashing at 9:40 a.m. Another thing is just using simple brain hacks to just compartmentalize situations. Okay. What I call de-link to de-stressify. So when there's a lot coming at you, it's funny, on Crush It TV, we just interviewed the top test pilot for the FA-22 and the F-117 stealth fighter. This guy's the top fighter. I don't know if he knows Ed Rush, but he talks about when your plane is on fire and you're hurtling toward the ground, you compartmentalize. You say, okay, what can I control and what can I control? What's going to hurt me and what's not going to hurt me? And so that is a great little brain hack when you can just kind of, and this requires, of course, for you to first quiet your mind.
Right.
So this was another powerful tool that I began to use. Those three things alone were very significant. But I want to give you just one more, and this might take away from one of the ones that you'll ask me about later. I don't know, but this one is probably the single most powerful one, and I know that everyone here is going to be able to relate to this. We are all doing the following. We're emailing, we're typing, we're getting on the phone, we're doing this. Oh, let me check this. Let me check my text again. Oh, yeah, you need that? Okay, no problem. Oh, let me read this a little bit. Oh, no, I forgot. I got to do this, right? We are all doing this because we're all under pressure, whether we're ADHD or not. The problem is, most of us probably know by now that multitasking is very inefficient, but yet we do it anyway, subconsciously or not, right, because we are constantly bombarded with signals, etc. So we allow it to happen. And the reason that this happens, in addition to the fact that there's just a lot of crap going on around us, is because we are not making a powerful, important distinction between the thing that we've decided we're going to work on for the next X minutes and everything else. And I call this do what you're doing now. This was a big revelation for me. It's something that I came up with as an ADDer because I realized that I would be working on something that the boss was waiting on, really important, big research paper or whatever it was, and I go, oh, I want to do this first. And they're going to, oh, but you know what? I meant to get back to da-da-da. Yeah. And then it's 8 o'clock at night, and this thing is not done. So what I began to do was this, that's actually a ritual, where I would look at the thing that I needed to do, like say this is my to-do list, and I've got that to-do here. I'd say, this is what I'm doing now. okay? And I'd put it down and I'd say, that's what I'm doing now. Everything else is BS, and it's not what I'm doing now.
Right.
So that when my text went off, or when the phone rang, or when I had an idea to go look for that YouTube video of the macaca monkeys riding the dwarf goats, because I love macaca monkeys and dwarf goats, and to see them together in a video would be the best thing.
Yeah.
All those things are all of a sudden, they're labeled BS, because they really don't matter in terms of this. It sounds oversimplified, but think about how many times you are sitting there working on something that's really important, something that's a quadrant 2 thing, and you keep getting pulled off by these little things that you think, well, let me just first, I'm just going to do this. But first, just do this. It's called the but first syndrome. So that was, I tell people that that's probably responsible, that one brain hack is responsible for probably 25% of my net worth right now. Seriously.
Excellent. So, there's some great strategies that you employed to help you, skyrocket within that organization. But then you ended up leaving. You said you were moonlighting. So you were moonlighting. You were working on another project with a couple of partners. So at what point in the project did you actually leave your career, which had been going so well? And did you wait to the other venture was making money? And what was going through your mind when you actually quit your job? And, how did you survive financially? Were there any did you have a lot of worries, any issues during that transition?
One of you asked me earlier what's my the best entrepreneurial advice anybody ever gave me, and it was, take a risk, take a chance. And one of the great things about ADDers is because they're impulsive, they are really, seriously, there's a lot of science behind this. They are more likely to go, screw it, let's try that.
I hear you.
And so here I am now making 6 figures. I got a nice bonus. I just won 2 free round trip tickets to anywhere in the world I chose, a bottle of 1993 Dom Perignon, all presented to me at the front of 800 people in this gorgeous building in big bank in Manhattan, where we had our holiday party. And knowing that I was about to pull the trigger and resign from this job. I was like a star at this agency. But I knew that first, I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. So that definitely is some advantage. I didn't have a lot of money in the bank because, remember, I was not really making any money until just 2 years, to a year before that or so. But I said, screw it. And you know what? It was also Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, that I was really into at that time. And holding that book in my hand and reading it every night helped give me the strength to say, screw it, let's do it. I also had 2 very competent partners, so I pulled the trigger, and we didn't have any money. Okay. We financed it using our own credit cards. The other thing we didn't have was a product or investors.
You just had an idea?
We just had an idea. And the other absurd thing is that this was the beginning of 2001, 1 year after the dot-com bubble burst. And our idea was a consumer play online. It was a B2C online play, which was completely dead. Yeah. So I quit my job, my 6-figure job, and we're going around looking for investment money, and we're holding meetings with. It was just crazy. But, and this is kind of one of the key, challenges / how you get over this thing in entrepreneurial life, the journey, is we just figured out a different way to use our idea, which we believed in, which I won't get into, but we had an idea for an online-based technology that would do the following thing, right? And it was a joke. We were getting meetings with corporations, but they were like, nah, it's not going to happen. We were getting meetings with some investors, but they were like, nah, it's not going to happen. But then we just took this idea and we go, hey, what if we took the idea over here and just moved it over here? And that wasn't my idea, by the way. And it wasn't even my business partner's idea. It was somebody else's idea that was a friend of my business partner.
Yeah.
And we brought it over into this space over here. And it ended up working. We landed our first client. We built the product. I helped write the whole product. And we built it. We sold it to our first client. And then we got another client. And we got another client. We got another client. And within a year and a half, we had 35 clients, and we were I think a 7-figure business.
Nice.
Taking a chance, and also just look, okay, if this isn't working, what do we do? The compartmentalizing again. Okay, what can hurt me? What can hurt me is quitting.
Yeah. So you just you repurposed the product, or went into a different target market, different demographic, but able to that worked extremely well in that target market versus the one that you were trying to initially go into.
Yeah, and it was a very fresh imagining of how to use this technology in the space, because nobody had ever done it in this particular space. And the space that we were in was college recruitment and enrollment, which is the space that we went into.
Yeah. Nobody
had done anything like this. But it also just goes to show, if you just keep thinking, use your entrepreneurial brain, to think outside the box, think in synaptic weird ways. And that's another great thing about ADHD and us entrepreneurs. We come up with things that doesn't make any sense at all. Well, you know what? It actually might make sense. Let's give it a try. So it became a lot of fun too.
You get to be very creative. So if you guys are just joining me, I'm speaking with Alan Brown. He's a productivity coach and host of Crusher TV. He teaches productivity brain hacks to his audience of crazy busy professionals and entrepreneurs. An adult with ADHD who is undiagnosed for decades, his untreated learning disability manifested into underachievement, substance abuse, and even worse. After hitting rock bottom, he began developing and creating brain hack strategies that helped him build a successful advertising career and several startups, one of which was sold for 8 figures. Now he's a featured speaker in the US and Europe, including TEDx Talk, and he uses his weekly online TV show at crushertv.com to help busy and overwhelmed people unleash the power of their brains. So if you have any questions for myself or Alan, just type them in the chat. And as always, be sure to like, love, share this video on all your Facebook feeds and in any groups or business pages that you belong. And we'll get to your questions throughout the show. And if we can't, just make sure you tag one of us in the question if you're watching this on replay, and we'll answer your question after the fact. So, Alan, so after that, you ended up selling that business, and you went on to start a Facebook page that now has over 33,000 fans, that has a target of people with ADD and ADHD. And you're also asked to speak across North America, or across U.S. and Europe. How did you become one of the most foremost authorities in the space of ADD and ADHD, just by because you were someone that was diagnosed with it? But how did you end up accelerating your authority into that space where you were just a member before, but now you're positioned as someone that people bring in to talk? You created the video product, and you're doing the TV show now. So what is it you did that positioned you as the go-to guy?
I guess it's a lot, and I've never really thought of it this way until you asked that question in the way you did. That it's a lot like when someone gets a certain kind of rare disease, they then become an advocate of that disease. Or when someone overcomes addiction, they may become an advocate for addiction sufferers. So in the same way, what happened to me was, and this is, by the way, this is another very important part of my success, that steep incline where
Right.
my career really took off, was getting diagnosed and treated for ADHD. It made a real big difference, and I still use my medication. I do use less and less and less of it every year. But when I got diagnosed, I was overjoyed because it explained, it doesn't excuse the drug addiction, the crime,
Right.
the horrible behaviors that I did, but it helped explain some of what I was doing, and it certainly helped explain my poor trajectory in my career, even though I really was working hard. So I ran out to buy some books about adult ADHD and coping solutions, etc. And I got 4 or 5 of them, and I ran home, and I opened the first one, and then I remembered, I can't read. Well, I mean, I can read, and I'm not even dyslexic. I have a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
But I have terrible reading comprehension. And I was like, wow. I wonder, and I did a little research, and it turns out that 30% of ADDers are dyslexic, and most of the other 70% just have terrible, terrible reading comprehension. So I was thinking, now why, if that's the truth, why are ADHD help resources look like this? Nobody wants to look at this. Why not have some fun? Why aren't there some videos or at least some audios?
Right.
So what I did was I created instructional videos with all of this is over the course of years after I was diagnosed, when I started to develop and curate these mini brain hacks that were helping to propel my career, helped me to help build a very successful startup. I relaunched my advertising career for some years and had tremendous success there. And then now I've got 2 more little awesome companies that I run here, ADV Crusher and Crusher TV. But I wanted to create something that would express all these brain hacks, but not do it like this, but do it in video.
Right.
And so I created these videos called ADD Crusher. And they are designed for teens and adults with ADHD, and they're basically a virtual coach that tells you, okay, here's strategy 1, we're going to do this together. Here's strategy 2, we're going to do that. And that's how I became an advocate for my tribe. And in my journeys, I ended up being invited to do that TEDx talk, which also helped to launch my career as an advocate and a speaker in this area.
Excellent. And Andy Lockwood has actually, surprisingly, a really good question for you. How did you grow your Facebook page reach? Because now it's up to 33,000 people and counting. But how did you what did you do? What strategies did you employ to actually grow that Facebook page reach?
Well, I think there are a couple of things. One is when you have an affinity like ADHD, it is easier to attract new folks as opposed to a business or a product because there is an emotional affinity. When we first launched ADD Crusher, the Facebook page in 2010, there was just so much passion for it. There were people saying like, oh my God, thank you for this. Oh, I can't believe this sounds like me. I didn't know I was the only one, that kind of thing. Because even just 5 years ago, ADHD in adults was not talked a lot about. The other thing, and I have to be honest, and you guys probably know this, that Facebook was a very different platform back then. You could go on and you could post something and it would be seen by most of your audience.
Yeah.
And then it could be shared by them. But now, with 33,000 people, unless you put a few dollars behind it, even a good post is not going to be seen by more than 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. So the key now becomes, are you doing things that are shareable? That's really what it's about. You've got to do things on Facebook that have people go, oh my God, this is awesome, I'm sharing this.
Right.
Because to just have people, have it come up in their feed and see, oh, Alan Brown, ADD Crusher, doing this thing, or they've got this cute little quote or meme or whatever, that's great. Unless it gets shared, you're kind of standing still. So that's kind of the name of the game. And then there's also just smart targeted boosting.
Right.
That you can do for not too much bucks. But we did spend some money on awareness back then. But back then you could also buy a like for like 3 cents. I don't mean going out and buying likes. I mean just creating an ad that says, hey, ADD Crusher is this Facebook page for ADD, and supporting it with $20, and then ending up with 320 new likes. That's the way it was back then.
Okay. The Facebook world has changed considerably now. It's much harder to generate that audience. Did you find it when you first started out? Were you putting out information as somebody with ADD or ADHD, or were you doing it as the expert or the authority? So, what position were you taking when you first started and you started, generating some relevant content?
Yeah, that's a great question. I did, in a way, I was kind of doing both because I was the voice of ADD Crusher. Yeah. So ADD Crusher was this kind of this person with his faceless. It was just the logo of the fist with ADD Crusher under it. And so the voice had my tonality. I'm from New Jersey, so I got a certain tonality, and I would speak in that tonality about ADHD and how to crush your ADD. Right. And so it was really a voice of expertise, but at the same time, ADD Crusher is this person, Alan, who also suffered with it and was frustrated and had a lot of horror stories to tell as a result. But it was kind of also hey, if I can do this, you can do this too. And that's a big premise of Crusher TV, because I call myself a mess to success entrepreneur, and I was a friggin' mess. Yeah. But again, if I can use some simple brain hacks to reverse the course of my career and have substantial success. I'm no Richard Branson, but I'm very pleased with where I've gotten compared to where I was. Anybody can do it, because I'm not the smartest tack and I'm not the sharpest tack in the box, believe me.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful listening to people's transformational stories, that people can actually relate to. This is where I started. This is what I did. Here's what my life looks like today. So because you're going to be relating to a lot of those people. So to answer Andy's question, maybe he needs more content from either there's transformational stories of the parents, because Andy's in the college helping people get funding for college, I believe. Talking to parents or talking to the kids about their journey going through the struggles or the challenges, just like you talked about when you first started launching. So if you guys are just joining us, I'm speaking with Alan Brown. He's a productivity coach, host of Crusher TV. He teaches productivity brain hacks to his audience of crazy busy professionals and entrepreneurs. An adult with ADHD who is undiagnosed for decades. His untreated learning disability manifested in underachievement, substance abuse, and even worse. After hitting rock bottom, he began developing and creating brain hack strategies that helped him build a successful advertising career in several startups, one of which was sold for 8 figures. Now, he's a featured speaker in the US and Europe, including TEDx Talk, and he uses his weekly online TV show at crushertv.com to help busy and overwhelmed people unleash the power of their brain. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat. We'll try to get to them. But definitely make sure you like, love, share this video on your Facebook feed and on any pages that you look after or groups that you belong to. So Alan, we're quickly running out of time here, but can you give the viewers maybe 5 quick tips or specific brain hacks that can help somebody who's either feeling stressed or overwhelmed? So do you have 5 quick ones you can share with us?
Might not be 5, but
okay,
I'll tell you what, here we go. The first one is definitely feed your brain. And here's my mantra for feeding your brain. Sugar sucks, carbs kill, and protein is power. And I know you know this, John, too, but just think about it. If you're walking around with Mountain Dew or even Diet Coke, which imitates sugar in the brain, and if you're eating crackers for snacks or potato chips for snacks, these things are crushing your productivity, and you've got to keep a steady flow of protein in it. So we could count that as 1 or 2. But here's another one along the same lines, and I shared this on Mike Koenig's show. But glucose is the fuel of your brain, and so if you just drank a big glass of orange juice, you'd get a lot of glucose really fast. But the problem is that orange juice, that glucose, is separated from its fiber because it's been squeezed out of the actual orange, and that makes it burn off too quickly, and that's why you crash. Same reason you crash after you eat a whole big handful of M&Ms, and you just end up reaching for more. But if you were to take in some glucose by way of an apricot, a dried apricot, then you're taking in the glucose with some fiber. If you were to add to that a couple of walnuts, which have the protein, they also have omega-3s, which are great for your brain, then you're actually extending the delivery curve of that glucose. And so if you are snacking, and I don't have mine nearby, but I normally have a little bowl of walnuts or pecans or almonds and dried apricots, Whenever you feel a little bit low on fuel, you pop a little bit of this stuff and it keeps you going. Another one, I'll just remind everybody of the power of do what you're doing now. When this show is over and you get back to doing what you were working on, just please label the thing that you've decided to work on. Okay, I have this tough email that I've been meaning to write and send. I'm going to work on this now. Say to yourself, this is what I'm doing now, and everything else is BS. And even if there's something important that comes up, like the boss texts me and says, please call me, if it's not urgent, you just write a sticky and say, it's important, but it's still not what I'm doing now.
Right.
And then this is what I'm doing now. That's such a powerful brain hack. And if you make a habit of that, as I have, you will find your to-do list starts getting smaller. Seriously. Another one is when we are, especially us ADDers and especially us entrepreneurs who have a bazillion things that we have to attend to on a given day, wearing many hats, there is often this feeling of overwhelm, where you just feel you're looking at your to-do list and you're like, holy crap, I got all these things and I don't know which to do, and and then there's this really tough thing that's here that I've been putting off. Well, the reason that you might be putting that off is because A, your whole to-do list is just screwing up your whole mind and fogging it up. So take that one big thing off there and write a new to-do list with just that one thing on there. Mm-hmm. And then for those things that you're really having a tough time starting on, use your smartphone or set a little timer and just set a timer for 20 minutes or even just 5 minutes and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to start it. I'm not going to finish it. In fact, I'm going to fail miserably and then just start it.
Yeah.
So just giving yourself permission to start with no expectation of any success at all gives you the power to no longer procrastinate on that thing. And again, even if you don't finish that thing that you've been meaning to finish, you've still at least moved it forward a little bit. That's a powerful brain hack right there. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is, I mentioned the law of giving and the fact that there is a lot of research behind, the cognitive benefits of gratitude. My planner has actually a space for today I'm grateful for, and there are 3 things. If you were to just write down every day 3 things that you're grateful for, just think about it for, what does it take, about 4 or 5 seconds to think about that and write those down. There is evidence that shows, scientific evidence that shows that when you do that over the course of 20 or more days, it actually improves your outlook, it improves your self-confidence, it improves your actual cognition. So that's your last brain hack of the day, gratitude.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Alan. And that's all the time that we have for today. I would personally want to thank you for being on the show and sharing with us your life and your journey. Alan has a free giveaway. I think it's a video of 5 tips or 5 strategies, 5 brain hacks, 5 something anyway. So we'll post that in the comments section. We'll post the link in the comments section and the notes on the website as well as the YouTube channel. And you can, if you want, we'll post Alan's information in there. So if you want to connect with Alan, if you have any questions, you want to know more, just reach out to him. And definitely a wealth of knowledge. So everyone show Alan some love by hitting that like button, love button, and be sure to share this video with all your friends, associates, and any business pages that you belong to. And that, again, Alan, it was great having you on the show, and I definitely look forward to catching up with you in December when I'm headed down to San Diego. I'm sure we'll be seeing each other at the event.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me on, and thanks everybody for watching.
All right. So you guys don't go away. I'll be right back with these closing remarks. Now, thanks for joining me on today's John A. McCabe Show, where we work with entrepreneurs, business owners, authors, experts, and speakers get seen, get heard, get noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. Now, also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, if you're someone who's looking to take your business to the next level and want to get some coaching advice, why not apply to be a guest on today's show? Now, for most entrepreneurs, we want to create a life of our own, create our own path, and do what we can to reach our own desired outcome, which is generally freedom. Freedom to choose what we want to do, when we want to do it, and with whom we want to do it. A life that's full of options and choices, where we worry less about money and more about the quality of time that we spend with others. Now, a great way to make that happen is to leverage other people's knowledge, time, and skill sets. Step 1 to reaching our freedom life is to realize that you can't do it alone. Working with a coach where being involved in masterminds is a great way for entrepreneurs to move their business forward. Now, a coach can help you shorten the time frame to get you from where you are to where you want to be, while being part of a mastermind is meant to bring entrepreneurs together, all with the goal of helping each other move forward with their business. Now, the second step to creating the life you envision for yourself as an entrepreneur is to implement systems into your business so you can streamline your operations, leverage systems, and free up your time to focus on your family, having fun, and the highest leverage activities in your business. You know, the activities that get you the biggest return on your time invested, the ones that truly make you money. Now, sometimes we just don't know what systems we need, how to implement those systems, or even have the time to find out what is needed. Now, working with a coach or consultant that understands, uses, and specializes in systems that can streamline your operations can help save you time, aggravation, and make you a lot more money. Now, for example, having a system or strategy that allows you to leverage just 15 hours of your time into enough repurposed content to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device is a great example of leverage. Now, just imagine a system where you invest just 15 hours of your time, and the end result is you're a #1 best-selling author. You have enough content that's going to get you seen, get you heard, get you noticed anywhere, anytime, on any device. You have a successful podcast. Now, it's automatically attracting more attention, giving more value, and generating more leads, which enables you to attract an abundance of paying customers. Now, this is also known as the Authority Acceleration Blueprint. Now, to find out more about the Authority Acceleration Blueprint coaching program or mastermind, then contact me via my website at johnamccabe.com or connect with me through my show's Facebook page. Now, again, thank you for joining us on today's show, and I look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's show when I have another great guest on discussing their business and accelerating their authority. So have yourself an amazing day, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.